I saw a lot of people from the United States, and I'm from the United States, but unlike most people in the United States, I have a lot of opportunity to come to Canada. And in fact, I don't know, I think I've spent a third of my time in Canada over the last 20 years or so. And you know, when you first start doing that, it seems like that Canada and the United States are very much alike. But after you do this over and over again, the more you go between Canada and the United States, the more you see that they are very different societies. And so for all of you from the United States, this is for the United States in particular, who are here for the first time, let me tell you about Canada. Canada is what the United States would be like if the United States were a reasonable place. Right? You'll see the longer you're here. Right? And for everybody, Canada is a place that is struggling seriously with the question of the meaning of diversity. And for those of us from other countries, when we're here, listen to the people here and the struggle in their hearts about who they are and how they are going to be different, but how are they going to be together in their difference, right? And it's a very heart-rending country in one way at this time. But you know, a lot of countries don't really struggle with their diversity. And Canada does. And we love Canada for that. I don't know how things will come out. But you're trying, and you have a vision and a possibility that when I return to my own country, I find missing. You know, in the United States, the price of being there is you have to become an American. That's one idea, what that is. But Canada is struggling with the idea that they're serious about difference, right? And so the rest of us need to listen, I think, and learn of this society's struggle and to join with them in prayers for the future. Maybe not for Canada, but for some peoples who have landed in the same place. Right? So I always draw strength when I come here from the struggle that you have in your diversity. And we all honor you for it. So thanks for letting us come here. We're here, I think, as a community and to think about community. And the one thing that I've had a wonderful opportunity to do for 25 years is to travel across North America, mostly in cities, and mostly in neighborhoods that are the older neighborhoods in cities, and constantly looking at what do people do when local communities work. Incidentally, that's very unusual for a person from a university because we're masters at how things don't work. If you want to know how things don't work, go to a university. They study that. But I've had the wonderful opportunity to look at when things work and then to wonder why. And I think I know in communities when things work why. It's only taken me 25 years. And I now know what everybody in this room already knows. Why communities that work. And the reason is because there is a principal ingredient in every activity and initiative in a local place where people are growing in power, growing powerful economically, growing powerful politically and culturally and socially. At the source of every one of those initiatives that I've seen for 25 years, and I've seen thousands, is the same thing. The principal ingredient of the cake of community. It's like the flour. And let me remind you of what it is as we start here, right? Now, the way I want to remind you, I spend maybe 2 days a week in a university, and then, if at all possible, 3 days a week in neighborhoods, back and forth, back and forth. And the big difference between a community and a university is how they know things. In a university, they know things by studies. But in communities, people know things by stories, right? And that's how you know where you are, right? If you're in a community, then we will know by stories. So let me tell you a story about the principal ingredient of every community activity that works. And this is a story we were hearing earlier from the visitor from New Zealand about children. This is a children's story because it's about me when I was a kid. When I was about 4 years old, there was a day that I now know, had no idea at the time, was the turning point in my life. I was like every other kid, jabbering, talking all the time. And I was with my grandmother, who was an Irish American. And she was in the kitchen making cherry pies. And I was standing right beside her at the counter, jabbering away. I'm sure, pestering her. And I know I was there because I wanted to lick the pan with the cherries and to eat some of the dough. And she all of a sudden stopped making the cherries, I think in a little exasperation. And she looked down at me and she said, "John, you have a gift." And I said, in fact, "What is it?" Because I was looking for her to give me something, right? She says, "No, I don't have it. You have a gift." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And she said, "You have the gift of blarney." Now, for those of you who are not Irish American, you may not know what that means. There are people who would say from Ireland that means a golden tongue. But there are people who know better, who have other ways of describing exactly the same attributes, right? So it depends a little on how you look at it. But what I do know from my mother is that I was nothing more than a kid like all the other kids around me who jabbered a lot. But my grandmother believed I had a gift. My grandmother believed I had a gift, And I am a 64-year-old man standing here today, 60 years later, jabbering because of her belief. Because in my life, she was the most important person. And because she saw in me what she thought was a gift, she made my life. Everyone has a gift. And every single initiative I have ever seen in any neighborhood where community activity is successful is without question the identification and the magnification of the gifts of the people who are there. Right? That is the flower of the community ingredient. Everyone has a gift. Everyone has many gifts. So I would like each of you now to think for a few moments about what you think is your most precious gift. The most precious gift. And then I'd like you to share that gift with the person on either side of you. Tell what it is, so that we can have a gift exchange to start our time together and begin to discover the foundation stone of every effective community activity. Right? So, have you got it? You know? Okay, when you're ready, why don't you share it with the person on either side of you, each of you. Let's see if we can broaden the gift exchange by asking just a few people to tell us what they said was their gift. And Jack, I wonder if I could get you to write these up on the screen there. Let's see here. What did you say your gift was?
Dealing with 13 to 15-year-old kids.
See, I didn't hear the beginning.
Dealing with 13 to 15-year-olds.
Dealing.
Teenagers.
Jack, can you write the words? Big words. I need the words. All right, let's see. Here's somebody who has a gift.
Yes. The gift of communicating with others.
Communicating with others. Let's see here. Here's a young, with older others. Let's see, here's a young man.
Hello. I said that my gift was being able to make everyone in a group feel like they're a part of that group and just kind of making everybody feel like that they're a part of what's going on.
Okay, making people feel like they're a part. Let's see here. Who else coming in? Nikki. What's your gift?
My gift is sensitivity.
Sensitivity. Sensitivity. Yeah, let's see. Emma, your gift.
My gift was my ability to accept people.
To accept people. Okay.
We have one on the floor down here.
Yes. I don't know this will reach.
They can say it.
It was her idea.
It's my idea.
Right.
Sorry.
Fertility.
Fertility. Now I wonder if we can you see there? It's not, for those of you in the back, let me read this. And I'd like you to think with me about what this tells us about this group. Gifts. Dealing with young people. Making people feel part of a group. Communicating with others. Sensitivity. Fertility. And accepting people. Accepting people, right? These are all gifts. Right? You know, do you see there? Do you see what I see? I see something that is amazing, because I've been asking people this question for 10 years. And it always comes out this way. And by that, I mean, every time you ask people this question, and you ask 5 or 10, what you will find, and incidentally, if we had the time, it would be wonderful to go on and do this with all 100 of us. So it would be fully revealed. But you see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gifts, and they are each different. And I have found generally you have to get 50 or 60 people telling their gifts before you begin to get people beginning to repeat. And I don't think most of us really realize that. In fact, we didn't realize it till we began doing it over and over again. And then what you come to see is why gift-centered communities are effective. Because they are about the mobilization of all of these diverse capacities. And you need them all, or you will be weaker. Think with me about this. There are 6. But we only have room in our group for 5. Which one shall we get rid of? Right? Jack, let me. Shall we get rid of the person who knows how to deal with young people so that our work will never have a future? Or shall we get rid of the person who makes people feel a part of a group so that anybody but us will never join us in what we intend? Or shall we get rid of the person who can accept people so that we will express our fears and our limits? Or shall we get rid of the person who's good at communicating with others so that when we want to tell about our vision, we'll be tongue-tied and unable? Or do we want to get rid of the person who is very sensitive so that we can run over everybody when we move toward our vision? Or shall we get rid of people who have a deep sense of fertility, right? And who can remind us about renewal and the recreation of life. And it goes on and on like that, doesn't it? It goes on and on like that. That what we really are seeing is that you can't ever exclude a gift and imagine you'll be better for it. Right? So what we have seen in neighborhood after neighborhood where things are working, what is happening is precisely what we've done here. That folks are identifying their gifts. And since we're moving toward a deeper understanding of community, and people always feel good about community and gifts, I also want to remind us that there are real opponents, forces opposed to gift giving. So it isn't like it's just going to happen. It's something that we have to make happen. Because there are important ways of denying people's gifts. The first way that I have been so impressed with is, who is the person who's good at dealing with 13 to 15-year-olds? Would you stand up? Your name is? Ivana. Ivana. Bana, I am so appreciative that you have a gift. And I would like you to be a part of our community. However, there are people who have been trained to deal with 13 and 15-year-olds. And who are trained so well that other people want to pay them to do it. And I think they're called child psychologists. Or maybe youth experts. So Bana, would you sit down? We don't need you because we have something better than your gift. Right? Who makes people feel a part of a group? Would you stand up? And your name is? Tony. What a gift, Tony. What a gift. And we could really use you in our community. But you know what? Just in the last 10 years, there are people who really have been trained to do this thing. And people are paying people to do it now. They're called facilitators. Right? So Tony, while you may have a gift, there's a better gift that we'd rather pay somebody for. Would you sit down? Right? Are you with me? Are you with me? We've just found a way not to call on the gifts of two people. If we didn't want to call on the gifts of the person who's sensitive, who could we call on to do it?
Shrink.
A shrink.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Maybe a psychiatrist, right? A really sensitive person. Right. I hadn't thought of this ever before. When I was a kid, there was a song that was not allowed to be played on the radio called Love for Sale. Famous song. Fertility. Maybe we could find somebody we could pay. Right? But I think you see what I mean, don't you? So one of the things that we found in the more than 100 cities and the hundreds of neighborhoods where we've looked at communities when they work is that when they don't work, what you have instead of gifted people exchanging together is a place that is full of paid people.